Cannabis Control Commission to order as of 1:02 p.m., I guess it is, on the 9th. August 9th, 2018, got the date right? Thank you. Can I ask, can everybody hear me in the back? Thank you. Can I ask, is this being recorded? Let me put public on notice that the meeting is being recorded. Can I ask everybody please to take their cell phones and put them on mute or shut them off? Okay, thank you. That includes the commission and the executive director and staff. Okay, thanks. We have a pretty full agenda. I don't really have any comments other than let's get into the agenda. Starting with, we have 2 sets of minutes to be approved. I know there's some edits that have been proposed those minutes, so we'll discuss those 2 sets of minutes. The executive director report, as usual, will include. We have a new team member. Oh, there you are. Okay, so we're going to introduce a new team member and other staffing. We'll go through the statistics that we have for license applications as of last night. And then there are a number of issues that require discussion and in some cases votes, starting with guidance for farmers that Commissioner Doyle has taken the lead on, so thank you for that, Commissioner Doyle. Second, the executive director is going to make some recommendations with respect to waivers for marijuana establishment agent registration in terms of background checks, so he will cover that and make a recommendation. We are launching the public awareness campaign that is required under our legislation. I wanted to, first of all, thank Commissioner Flanagan, who has been the driving force behind this. There's been a lot of staff involvement. I'm going to let Commissioner Flanagan recognize all the staff has been involved because it has been extensive, but it's a pretty big milestone, very important part of our mission, and we are going to release that today based upon the conversation we're going to have. There will be a presentation that both Commissioner Flanagan and our Director of Communications, Cedric Sinclair, will go through to describe the campaign, how we got to the messaging, and how we're going to communicate the messaging in the campaign. So that's an important agenda item. There were 2 discussions at our last meeting 2 weeks ago that we agreed to defer final vote on to open it to public comment. We received a fair number of comments, which I'll describe the amount that we got, and we agreed that we would reconvene on those 2 topics today and discuss and vote on them. So that's both the general guidance to communities with respect to host community agreements, as well as the equity-focused municipal guidance document. So for all of you that did make oral or written comments, thank you very much for your input, and we'll discuss modifications of any of those documents based upon the feedback we got. So those are the 5 discussion topics for the agenda, and then I think as everybody's aware, there are 7 license applications that the staff will make recommendations to the commission on, and we will discuss and vote on. And I think between the 5 discussion items and the 7 applications, we're going to have a pretty full agenda today. So with that, let me move into the first agenda item, which is minutes from previous meetings to review and vote on and approve. Somehow, I thought we were completely caught up. I don't know how this happened, and I'll take ownership and responsibility for it, but somehow April 18th never got covered by the commission and voted on. So the first agenda item is to discuss the minutes from April 18th, 2018. Has everyone in the commission had a chance to review the minutes? Are there any questions or comments on those minutes? Commissioner McBride?
I have an amendment made to July 26th.
Okay, well, let's start with the 18th first. And then, are there any comments on the, or questions on the 18th of April? Then can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved. Second.
Let the record show Commissioner Doyle made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Flanagan. All in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show the commission unanimously approved the minutes from April 18th, 2018. So now we really are caught up. The second set of minutes are from July 26, 2018. I'll start with Commissioner McBride. Your comments or questions?
I just have an amendment or an edit to the 3rd paragraph, the 3rd full paragraph on the 2nd page, the last sentence, which begins the host community agreement.
I'm sorry, would you just do that reference again, please, Commissioner McBride?
2nd page, 3rd paragraph, the big paragraph in the middle.
Thank you.
And the final sentence. I would edit it. I went back and actually looked at the help and advice of my team, our YouTube page, and rewatched this part of the.
Thank you for whoever posted that.
No, we posted.
Oh, we posted it. Thank you.
So the final sentence should say, information about the costs associated with the host community agreement should be submitted during the renewal process.
Okay. Any comments on that? Any other suggested edits or questions?
I have a minor edit.
Can you make reference, please?
On the second to last page, the commissioner title asks if the commission could provide the new positive impact guidance.
I'm sorry, hold on a second, please.
This is the second to last page.
Yeah. Yeah, I did, okay, thank you.
And so, my edit is just to change that to Commissioner Title asks if the commission would review licensees' actions taken relative to their submitted positive impact plans during the renewal process.
Any concerns, questions about that? Okay. Any other suggested edits? Then can I have a motion to approve minutes as amended by both Commissioner McBride and Commissioner Title?
So moved.
Second, please. Let the record show Commissioner Doyle made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner McBride. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let the record show that the minutes were approved as amended by Commissioner Title and Commissioner McBride. Thank you. Okay, I think we're officially caught up. I hope that at a subsequent meeting, I'm not going to have to undo that statement by looking at minutes from sometime in 2017, but I think we're good. So thank you to the staff for doing this. I know this is onerous and painstaking work, and so I appreciate the role in keeping us current. So thank you very much. Next on the agenda is the executive director's report, starting as I mentioned with the introduction of a new staff member. So let me go back. Good. Mr. Executive Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you indicated, we do have a new team member I'd like to introduce. This will become a recurring theme as it has been for some time as we continue to build our staff. The individual is Patrick B.A. Patrick joins the commission as our Director of Investigations. Most recently, he actually served as a New York State Police trooper. Most recently, again, as a senior investigator of the Middletown, New York office. So he comes to the commission with...
Oh, I have a history in Middletown, New York. I'll talk to you about it offline.
He probably already knows about it. That said, as our Director of Investigations, Patrick joins Yao Jibi's team, our Chief of Investigation Enforcement, and he will begin to develop or build out that investigative unit for the department for the agency. So very excited to have him, very excited to have his contributions, and someone with his breadth of experience and expertise that he's going to really add value as we build out that unit. So excited to have him, excited to welcome him. This was his first week, this is his first week, so he's really getting his feet under him and settling in, so happy to introduce him.
Well, welcome, Patrick. It's been great to have you on board. Any other staffing issues, Mr. Executive
Not
Director?
at this time, no.
Okay, then if we can go through the summary statistics for applications.
So the usual slides, run through them, which is we have 2,264 total applications. Of those, 219 are pending with at least one packet having been submitted to the commission. 112 have been withdrawn. 1,921 remain incomplete. And of course, the commission has issued 12 provisional licenses to date. Those break down into 2 craft cooperatives, craft and water cooperatives, 4 independent testing lab, 2 laboratory agents, 45 cultivation, 65 establishment agents, 9 micro business, 26 product manufacturing, 3 research facility, 54 retail, 3 transportation with an existing establishment license, and finally 6 third-party transport. That is the 219. The next slide indicates those that are pending with 4 packets having been submitted. That total this week is 95. Breaks down to the following, which is 2 independent testing lab, 33 cultivation, 3 micro business, 24 product manufacturing, 3 research facilities, 28 retail, and 2 transportation with an existing establishment license. Again, on the right-hand side, in the right-hand column, you see the difference between the last meeting announced that is 10 additional licenses or 10 additional applications that are pending. The breakdowns are 62 R&D priority, 3 economic empowerment priority, and 30 general applicants. Those 95 break down to be 52 separate entities. The slide is becoming familiar is where those 95 stand as far as their review. There are 20 that have not been reviewed by the commission staff as of yet. 38 have been reviewed and deemed to be incomplete or requiring additional information. 18 are out for third-party interaction. That is, as you will know, the municipality interaction as far as certifying that they are compliant with all local ordinances and bylaws, and also our background check vendor. There are 7 that are pending before the commission today for review and subsequent vote. And of course, 12 have been considered and issued 12 provisional licenses. That's a total of 95. So as you'll note, we've been through the majority of applications in some way. And we're also into reviewing general applications now as far as the priority status. So folks that did not secure priority status through that certification process, we're now getting into the review of those applications and actually generating third-party notices out. So I'm confident that in the next few meetings, we'll be able to bring those applications for your consideration as well.
But anybody that did get priority certification, once they submit all 4 packets and they're deemed complete, will come to the front of the approval or the review queue.
That's the case, true. And anyone that has been deemed incomplete and we've reviewed and said they require additional information, once they resubmit, they would return to their priority status.
Okay, great. Thanks. Any questions so far?
Yes. I've gotten many questions about labs. I was wondering if you could give an update about the lab applications we've received and where they are in the process.
Sure. So we did, as I indicated on previous slides, there are 2 that are pending with all 4 packets having been submitted. I'm, I guess, pleased to say that both of those applications were submitted prior to the Commission's August 1st deadline to secure priority review from the staff, and they remain a priority review of ours. For many of them, or for the 2 of them, the review, of course, starts with a completion or completeness review. If complete and both have fit within the complete categories, they'll generate the third-party external notice. Both of those have been done as well, as far as background check as well as municipality. And in the meantime, from a process standpoint, we're actively engaged with each applicant. If additional information is necessary, clarification may be necessary, we'll engage in that conversation with the applicants. And that's kind of where they stand as of now. That review is, of course, a priority, so I'm relatively confident that hopefully at our next meeting, I'll be able to bring 1, if not both, of those applications for the Commission for consideration. But of course, it depends on the results of that background check and any third-party notice, municipal reaction. But given where we stand as far as the review at this point, I'm relatively confident.
Any questions? The map.
So next slide is the map of Massachusetts. And you see the breakdown. And actually, I regret I did not pull the data from last week, but those 10 applications are spread across Massachusetts. Not a lot of change as far as the Cape Islands are concerned, or Suffolk County, but again, Worcester County continues to be the predominant location for many of the applications we received.
Questions? Anything else on status of license applications?
Nope.
And let's go to the next agenda item, which is guidance for farmers. Want to thank again Commissioner Doyle for her leadership on this, and again, I know a lot of staff's been involved, so I'd ask you to recognize the staff involvement, but the leadership of this and the driving force has been Commissioner Doyle, and so it's greatly appreciated. Our new expert on agriculture, energy consumption. What else do we have to add to your list? It's a growing and impressive list.
As is the industry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And yes, I would like to acknowledge many hands contributing to the guidance for farmers. What essentially it is a consolidation of and summarization of regulations that pertain to farmers and cultivators, as well as answers to some frequently asked questions and easy reference to particular issues. So I would ask if there are no questions by the commissioners regarding the guidance that we approve it subject to the fixing of the usual format and spelling.
Are there questions for Commissioner Doyle or comments?
I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to acknowledge the timeliness of this. At the last Public Safety and Community Mitigation Subcommittee meeting, there were some questions that had been raised by town managers and administrators in the central part of the state relative to exactly the information that is included in this guidance. So this is timely and appreciated. So thank you to Commissioner Doyle for putting it together.
Other questions or comments?
Yes, I also want to thank Commissioner Doyle for her hard work on this. I do not have any edits to it. I have a suggestion, which is in the which discusses alternate security provisions. In our next guidance, there's a form that goes with the guidance, that's a waiver form, and so I wanted to suggest that for the alternate security provisions, we may also have a waiver form.
Yeah, I totally agree with that suggestion, and the process of doing so, I believe, has been initiated. So hopefully we'll see that soon.
Other comments, questions? Excuse me. Then I'd ask for a motion to approve, subject to final formatting and editing, the guidance for farmers.
So moved.
Second.
Clerk Cho, Commissioner Doyle made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Flanagan. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you. Let the record show the commission unanimously approved the guidance for farmers to be released. Thank you very much again, Commissioner Doyle. I think the next topic is going to be led, the conversation is going to be led by our executive director. So, Mr. Executive Director, can you give us an overview of this document, please?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We received a number of questions from applicants and provisional licensees relative to the agent registration process and how that coincides with their existing status in many cases as an RMD license to the Department of Public Health, which has similar requirements for an agent registration, that the applicant and the licensee conduct a CORI and maintain that CORI on their proposed agents. The question is, given that the Department of Public Health requires it and we require it, is that something that is intended to be a duplicate process, or can folks use that same CORI for that simultaneous agent registration? So this guidance goes into discuss that, which is first lays out the requirements to be a marijuana establishment agent, that the individual be 21, never have been convicted of distribution of a controlled substance to minors or like offense in other jurisdictions, and lastly, be deemed suitable in accordance with our regulations. We also have an agent registration process or application process on the Commission's Cannabis Industry Portal, and that requires the licensee to use information obtained in the CORI to provide us information of any additional background check information that would be relevant for the purposes of registration. The gist of this guidance, as well as the subsequent form that's attached, is to suggest that if an applicant or licensee requested to use the CORI, as long as it's been conducted and obtained within a year, because they're valid for a year, that they could seek a waiver from the Commission for the purpose of using that. We would maintain the ability during the course of our inspections to audit and inspect that CORI to ensure that it's compliant. We also ask through our traditional waiver process that is contemplated in the regulations that they give us some rationale for that waiver. The rationale listed in the regulations is that the compliance with the requirement would cause an undue hardship. Their non-compliance would not jeopardize the health or safety of any patient, customer, or the public. And lastly, they will institute compensating features acceptable to the Commission. The waiver request form goes further, and asking them to, that they will conduct a new CORI check, again, within that year time frame, that their last report, CORI that was generated was within the previous 365 days, that all background check information on the CORI is reported to us. Again, we're not asking them to submit the CORI to us, and that they will get a CORI within that additional time frame. So I'm happy to take any questions you may have. Further, it also indicates, and I think it's important for the Commission to acknowledge or be aware, that the waiver process would be administered at the staff level by myself or a designee of myself. I think really to ease that burden on the Commission level to make us a bit more efficient when turning these waiver requests around. So again, happy to take any questions you may have.
Are there questions? I guess my only question, is this waiver form available, or if not, when will it be available?
Once approved, we will certainly make it available.
Okay, and your timing for doing that will be?
Today or tomorrow.
Okay, great, thank you.
And we would ask in the course of the form itself would be submitted along with the application for agent registration, so we'd have it all condensed into one complete file.
Great. Are there questions or comments been made? Can I have the motion to approve the executive director's recommendation? Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Let the record show Commissioner McBride made the motion to approve and Commissioner Doyle made the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show the Commission unanimously approved the recommendation of the executive director. Thank you very much. Next topic is, as I mentioned, the public awareness campaign, and I really do want to just reemphasize this really has been the passion and the leadership of Commissioner Flanagan. There have been a lot of other people involved, but Commissioner Flanagan takes a role as commissioner, particularly with respect to her appointment as the public health expert on the commission. Takes that role very seriously, and I think the output that you're about to see is testimonial to that. So I want to thank you very much for your leadership and ask you to introduce the topic.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I really want to thank those at DPH and at More Advertising, also on the Cannabis Control Commission, Cedric Sinclair, Martine Russell, and Julie Johnson. This has truly been a team effort. Many of you know that under Chapter 55, Section 51, we're mandated to do a public awareness campaign in conjunction with the Department of Public Health. And we've been working diligently over the past months to get this done. I want to really thank Governor Baker and Lieutenant Governor Polito for including money in the supplemental budget that will, once passed, eventually go towards this campaign and the rollout. You may know that under the law, the money is supposed to come from revenue generated by the sale of adult use of marijuana. We really believe that it's important to keep the trend of Massachusetts with very informative public awareness campaigns so that the citizens really truly understand what's here now in Massachusetts. Money had been previously appropriated in the supplemental budget back in May. Due to the fact that we didn't spend that money before the fiscal year of July 1st, it is now in the closeout stock awaiting legislative action. I'm very confident in the fact that our legislative partners up on Beacon Hill will act favorably on this item, and you'll see a whole host of a variety of methods from which this is going to be delivered. I know Cedric is going to go through it. I really think that it's important to note that, to me, it's vitally important to have a strong public awareness campaign. I think what we've learned, especially through the baseline study program, is there are some people who just don't know about this law. And we want to make sure that they know about this law and understand what this law is here in Massachusetts. And at the same time, talk about youth prevention. We really want to ensure that this product is used correctly, is used legally, without diversion to children and to minors. So I'm really confident in the fact that this public awareness campaign will make a strong impact here in Massachusetts. We have a long history of having very impactful public awareness campaigns, and I think that this is just another in the long line. So Cedric, if you'd like to explain that.
Sure, thank you. So as Commissioner Flanagan noted, an act to ensure safe access to marijuana mandates that the Department of Public Health, in consultation with the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission, shall establish a science-based public awareness campaigns that inform the public about responsible use of marijuana and educate youth about marijuana use with the goal of decreasing the youth usage rate. Today I will review phase one, an online campaign to educate youth about marijuana use with the goal of decreasing the youth usage rate, done in collaboration with DPH, commencing Monday, August 13th. And as well as phase two, a fully integrated marketing campaign on youth prevention and responsible adult use. The later phases will address the dangers of manufacturing marijuana products at home and other identified education needs. So this scientific-based public awareness campaign is informed by a representative pre-survey of Massachusetts residents and 18 focus groups that took place in 3 locations, including 1 urban, 1 suburban, and 1 rural. The pre-survey sampled Massachusetts residents aged 21 plus and explores the knowledge, attitudes, and practices around cannabis and the new law. The campaign's effectiveness will be measured in a post-survey reassessing the knowledge, attitudes, and practices around cannabis and the new law in a comparable, separate, representative Massachusetts sample. So the focus group consisted of So the focus group consisted of 6 distinct cohorts, all consistent and weighted for Massachusetts' diversity of race, geography, and other demographics to ensure that the campaign is truly reflective of the various education needs and preferences that may exist around Massachusetts communities. The robust feedback gathered provided significant insight that was used to make decisions on language choice, such as the need to use cannabis and marijuana interchangeably, logo design elements that effectively communicate and are compelling to a wide spectrum of constituents, and informed our understanding of the public's comprehension of the laws on marijuana, consumption, possession, and sale. The research insights gleaned in the focus groups underscored that the public had general awareness of the law, however, there is significant confusion and misunderstanding of the details. And it also demonstrated that parents and guardians desired talking tips about the law, forms of marijuana products that are now available, the effects of cannabis consumption on their children's health, and other concerns. As a result, we focused on key messaging points that include but aren't limited to clarification that the legal age is 21, not 18, prohibited activities such as crossing state lines and driving while consuming and/or impaired, tips on effective engagement between parents and children, and details about the risks of underage use of marijuana. In addition to the key messages, we developed a brand to drive engagement through our communication vehicles that would be compelling, enduring, and could speak to multiple target audiences, considering the high competition for constituents' attention, the diversity of our constituents, and the need for brand extensions for future public education needs. So this is the brand, More About Marijuana. The brand that the work group developed has an empowering tagline that's a call to action for constituents to learn more about marijuana. The inclusion of the state outline speaks directly to our citizens and leverages the Commonwealth's positive brand equity. And according to color psychology, blues and greens are associated with trust, safety, and reliability, supporting the intentional development of a scientific, fact-based campaign that is both approachable and friendly. And so our media plan includes broadcasts, and the broadcast piece will launch in phase 2. It's designed to generate high awareness of the need for responsible behavior from adult consumers and the prevention of youth use, as well as increased messaging coverage in communities that have limited access to internet and our digital portion of the campaign. If you wouldn't mind playing the first video on the left. Just click
I
on
didn't
it.
know how to do that.
You don't get to do that.
Yeah, I don't think I had the
Okay,
technology
sorry.
to do that available.
First video?
Yes.
We had sound up.
Marijuana is now legal in Massachusetts for adults 21 or older. But parents are asking, what do we tell our kids? You're probably already talking with them about alcohol, tobacco, and opioids. Now is the perfect time to add marijuana to the conversation. Listen to what they have to say. Make sure they know that you want them to be healthy and safe. Give your kids the facts, but set clear rules about marijuana use. For tips on how to keep your kids safe, visit moreaboutmj.org.
Thank you. So the 30-second youth prevention spot is also accompanied by a responsible adult use ad. There are also other 15, 30, and 60-second spots that provide additional details or explore specific subject matter focus and are more appropriate for the digital outlets that are being used in phase 2. But in phase 1, the focus is on youth prevention and the digital media. These digital campaign tactics will be highly effective in targeting key constituents, identifying attribution of successful tactics, and scaling scope as budget and education needs evolve. These tactics will target relevant websites and major social media channels such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, through the use of Google AdWords and social media marketing. We also have out-of-home, billboards, transit, etc. And this will be another aspect of phase 2. It also supports large-scale awareness of the campaign by targeting large cities as well as specific neighborhoods that may host a marijuana establishment. Some of the cities that are being targeted for transit advertising include Boston, Springfield, Brockton, Fitchburg, and Worcester. And the last major piece of our media plan is print collateral. We have developed 2 rack cards that provide constituents with useful information, such as tips for having discussions about marijuana with their children, facts about the risks of underage cannabis consumption, and crucial details about the laws that help consumers remain in compliance. And that is our campaign. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there questions for Commissioner Flanagan or for Cedric? Comments?
I just want to applaud Commissioner Flanagan and Cedric and everyone who worked on this. Wonderful.
That's a great job. And I like the logo, and I also like the education I just received about the significance of color choice. I did not know that.
Everything is strategic, Mr. Chairman, and
And I also want to thank Commissioner Flanagan for taking away my thunder by answering the question of who's paying for this and how it's going to be paid for, because you know I would have asked that question.
No, you're most certainly welcome to ask the question. Actually, there was some startup money that was given by the Department of Public Health, roughly $260,000 to fund the development and asset creation of the youth prevention and responsible youth campaigns, and that goes towards the focus groups, the ads, the animations, and the printings, and things of that nature. Also, there's $40,000 the Department of Public Health funded to launch the 3-month digital-only Facebook and Google ad youth prevention campaign that Cedric talked about. And then the additional $2 million that is in the stock currently will be used for the remainder of the youth prevention and the commencement of the responsible youth campaign. So, we're very fortunate in Massachusetts because, as I said, Section 51 said that we had to wait until use revenues that we obtained from the use of from the sale of adult use of marijuana. But we really have been proactive in Massachusetts, and thanks to the governor, lieutenant governor, and the legislature, we'll be able to do this earlier than expected.
Yeah, I think that the lesson learned from other states is that they waited until after launch to do this, and I think that's a great lesson that we've learned, and I'm glad that we got ahead of it.
No, and I think, also just to mention, yesterday EOPS launched their Drive Sober campaign, which I was fortunate to stand alongside the Undersecretary Quealy and the Mass State Police and the Department of Transportation. So we're really taking this very seriously to say, you know what, it's here in Massachusetts. I think all of the rhetoric and the campaigns are over. We know we have to move forward with this, and so having public awareness campaigns for the consumers and the citizens of Massachusetts is really responsible.
So thanks, and thanks to DPH as well for their collaboration on this. Commissioner Brown?
I wanted to thank Commissioner Flanagan for all of her work and the versatile work put into this. I do have one question. The timing on this is great because we're sort of ahead of it, and also I think because students are heading back to school, everyone from your middle schoolers all the way up to college age. Is there a component of the campaign that is going to be focused on school personnel, social workers, guidance counselors, anything like that, or is that sort of, is there?
I think right now what we're doing is youth prevention, and we're trying to educate the public and also give parents the tools. But eventually, as we obtain revenues from the sale of marijuana, you'll see different components of education. Teachers and school nurses have really asked about messaging with regards to the population of students they deal with, whether it's middle school or high school, and I think that's going to be really important. The Department of Public Health actually rolled out a vaping campaign, to talk about the dangers of vaping, and so we're hoping that kind of spearheads some conversations with parents and students, but also to give it to the teachers.
I would also like to point interested parties to the state's clearinghouse, which has the rack cards, the printed materials that provide tips for not only parents, but just guardians and trusted adults to have these conversations with children.
I think that's fantastic. I would suggest that we may want to do some outreach maybe through David Lakeman or others to folks like the Mass Association of School Superintendents, the school committees, to get that information out and make sure that they are aware that it is out there. Because I think one of the things that we've identified, particularly as we come online with products like edibles, vaping, that there may be just an issue of identification. And so it's in addition to sort of talking about the risks and risk reduction practices, right? It's also the identification piece and just sort of generating a conversation for educators so that they're aware of what's going on.
Yeah, and a couple of months ago I spoke with the Mid-Wachusett Principals Association. They're looking for information. A lot of school committee personnel, a lot of school personnel are just looking for additional information on what to talk to kids about, what exactly. And so the hope is that with the RAT cards, that they do go to 351 cities and towns. Most specifically, and I know I harp on this a lot, is the sections of the state that don't have internet. They're not gonna be watching these YouTube videos, and we wanna make sure that even they are included in this piece of it. But also so that, your regional schools and your, all of your schools from, K to 12, but also for college age students, because we realize that that's a whole other conversation, that 18 to 21-year-old living on your own cohort that we really need to address. So we're hoping that the campaign grows over time, and we're fortunate that we were able to get it off the ground as quickly as we can before school starts.
Other comments or questions? Okay, so congratulations, and I'm looking forward to seeing you released. I don't think there's a vote necessary on this, just thank you for your efforts. Next two topics, I'm going to go through the sequence. As I mentioned, are carryovers from our last public meeting 2 weeks ago. First being guidance to on community host agreements, and again, my thanks to Commissioner McBride, who has been the driving force behind this. I'm going to ask you to lead the conversation here, including, I guess, some suggested edits that you have based upon the public comments that we received. So, Commissioner McBride.
So I don't know the exact number of comments that we received. Mr. Chairman, do you have that?
I have it upstairs.
36.
36, thank you.
So-
Sorry, I forgot to bring that document down with me.
I just didn't have to count up the number of comments, but we received comments of every variety. We received comments from folks on the industry side. We received comments from folks on the municipal side. We received comments from individuals who just have a general interest in the guidance and the rollout of the industry. So it was with that in mind that I have made a couple of suggested edits to the document. By and large, they are intended to clarify where there was some clarity that was needed or requested from commentators. There are components in here that reflect some specific requests. There are other pieces in here that, as I read through the comments and looked at the case law that supported this document, I realized that there may need to be a rephrasing to make it clear what the intent was. So I'm happy to sort of talk about this, but I also would want to open it up to my fellow commissioners for their suggestions about how we can make this a clear document in the event that we do decide to issue it. And also I think what the process should be in making this a clear document. It's a little bit difficult to do a markup here, you know, and sort of have it be something that is, I think, you know, a quality document. But I'm open to what that process would look like, and you know, it may very well be, because as we said from the start, this is a fairly, it's a legal intensive document, and it's intended to be that way because the support here for the fee structure and for the approach to this really is found in the statute, but also in decisional law. That creates the foundation for what fees are, how they are treated, how they're interpreted, and that is something that, you know, has existed long before this commission was ever formed, and long before community impact fees and, you know, Chapter 94G were considered. So there are components of this that, you know, may require additional review, although, you know, I think I'm comfortable with what I've suggested here at the commission.
So let me suggest, thank you. Let me suggest that we have a conversation about your suggested edits, other comments or suggestions, and then at the end of that conversation, see where we're at and have a separate conversation about what the next step in the process is, if that's okay. Let's separate those two conversations. Let's focus first on content. So go ahead, Commissioner Bowe.
This is actually just a quick housekeeping question. So the edit that just got circulated, this doesn't appear to be the entire agreement, so, sorry, guidance, yeah. So I just want to, because ours, mine is.
Yeah, mine's not two-sided either.
So.
So I think we all got half of the document.
So, oh, so there's supposed to be more. Should we take a
Can we,
quick
well, I
recess?
think what can we take a short break and get 5 minutes? Would that be enough to get us complete documents? How about 10? Yeah, I'll make a personal plea for 10 minutes. Okay, so.
That's a public awareness campaign.
Yeah, that's a public awareness campaign. So we'll get back together at 10 to, okay? We're adjourned until then.
Thank you for catching that.
Oh,
I
no,
Mine
noticed
was the last page.
I noticed something was wrong here, but I couldn't catch what it was. Jen.
Director.
having a recess. Well, I was like on the edge. I was like, well, maybe I can go upstairs, but I don't know if I should. But yeah, I just put it on Facebook. Not gonna have Can I do it? Can I do it? Can I do it this way?
You don't want this?
Yeah, I do want it.
Put it.
Yeah.
Still run off of my credit cards. You just take your phone out though.
Oh, hold on. Can I pause this? I can't pause it, can I? Can you do it? Thank you. That was hot as hell, isn't it? Don't worry. It's okay.
Does it matter? Like,
No, you can actually cover it with your fingers if you need to. They don't need to know. Thank you.
Your signature coming along. It's in process. Now, because you said it's good with your everything on my
And I'll tell you why. Not the copier.
Yeah, that's why.
Copier.
So what do? You just leave the background gone?
I can, even if you were on the I just don't want to take that step.
Yeah,
I'm not sure it's
you know all the good secrets.
I don't know them all.
But you know enough of them.
I don't know some.
It's gonna look so good. My current
If now it's like, because
that's all afternoon.
well, I've been singing games, but I got like 15 sheets from one person.
Oh, you're not naming names.
Not naming names, but you have to hold
Okay, well now that you know, but I'll submit like 14 signatures, so that way it's not 15, so I'm not as happy.
I appreciate that.
I guess, well, technically, I'll we'll see.
Can you log on to the YouTube and make it look out at you online? Oh, I mean,
Oh, right? Yeah.
you know the password?
Yes, I believe so.
If not, you can.
Okay. Let's go.
Look, Tammy's going on 3 things.
I know.
You only know somebody.
From the state, I actually have a tomorrow.
I would say, no. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, working, yeah.
Because I was like,
This is, yeah, this is, do you have any future? Okay, thank you. We're ready to get started again. I think the floor still belongs to you, Commissioner McBride. So if you'd walk us, my suggestion, if it's okay with you, let's go through your suggested edits, and then we'll ask for other comments and suggestions from the rest of the commission. Everybody has a two-sided copy now?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
I apologize to everybody for that delay.
As I said, I'm grateful for it.
So again, just to remind sort of where we started this conversation, in producing this guidance, the hope is really to set some bumpers so that negotiations on those community agreements can proceed, and to provide our interpretation of what is on the paper, section 3B of chapter 94G. So it's with that in mind that I can go through this document, but it's also the caveat that this can't be everything to everyone. This can't be and is not intended to be exhaustive or exclusive. At the end of the day, the contract negotiations are negotiations between two willing parties to a contract, and to hamstring that negotiation, I think is not at all what was intended by the statute. In fact, I think the statute tried to provide what we are supplementing here through this guidance. And so it's with that in mind that I'll kind of walk through my edits to the guidance. So
Thank you.
the first one, if you look, it's the second full paragraph that begins under the statute. I've added a sentence at the end of that states the costs and impacts of hosting a marijuana establishment will understandably vary from municipality to municipality, and negotiated HCAs should reflect the particular impacts on the host community. I think that this was a really thoughtful comment by Amherst, which generally speaking I found their comments to be actually very thoughtful. And what the suggestion there was really to define that these agreements are really going to vary from municipality to municipality. They shouldn't be a cookie cutter agreement, and that the impacts are going to be different depending on what types of marijuana establishments and municipality, the makeup of the municipality, geography, etc., right? And so these are things I think we all know and we all intuit, but that clarification is intended to make that clear.
Should we go through the whole set of comments and come back to that and comment on each individual?
The second edit is to the section entitled Community Impact Fee. Here, I edited the paragraph pretty significantly, and this was because I went back and reviewed my own work. I went back and reviewed some of the case law that I had gone over previously and went back over previous drafts and realized that there was information that was conveyed here that I think maybe did misstate or misconstrue what some of the case law was leading to. So here I've struck out a couple of sentences and inserted in place thereof. The fee charged must be in exchange for a benefit that is sufficiently specific and special to the marijuana establishment and assessed in such a way that it justifies assessing the cost to this limited group as opposed to the general public, even if the public sees some benefit. Moreover, the fee should be reasonably designed to compensate the municipality for the costs of providing the benefit. What was struck out here substantively is the voluntariness part, and the reason for that is because following Emerson, there were a series of cases, one of which is Silva v. City of Attleboro, where the court states, the second factor of the Emerson College decision should not be understood as having described the essential characteristics shared by all fees, both regulatory and proprietary. Nothing in that case suggests that whether a charge is incurred voluntarily is relevant in the regulatory fee context. And the regulatory fee is what we're talking about in this case. So that's to clarify that.
So what about the other changes that you, besides taking out the voluntary nature, what was the logic behind the other changing language you're proposing?
It's really really honestly, it was because I think that it was, this is a phrasing that flows maybe a bit better in the absence of.
I don't see something to change other than the voluntary, take straight from the voluntary.
Yeah.
I'm missing anything.
So, okay, so the next edit is in the next paragraph. So we had received comments that one alternative to a 3% community impact fee that's paid over time is a flat fee. So this comment is intended to get at the idea that a flat fee is okay, but you are still limited by 3%. And so I can appreciate, this goes back to the original comment that was offered by the city of Amherst, that municipalities are going to vary, and marijuana establishments are going to vary in terms of what makes sense to them. If a flat fee is something that makes sense, then I think that that should be accommodated here, provided that, again, you're staying within the constraints that are provided for the community impact fee. And I would also suggest, without kind of reaching a conclusion here, that to parties who are negotiating that, it may be viable to have a clawback term for flat fees that are paid in excess in the event that the fee, is over what is ultimately reflected in the cost provided at the end of the year. This next comment, individual conditions can vary widely. The following list should not be construed as exhaustive or exclusive, but merely serves as an illustration of conditions. This is really in response to comments that I think people were construing this list as kind of like, this is it, these are the terms that can be included in a host community agreement. And from the very beginning of this conversation, going all the way back to December, I have expressed my concern about really, kind of providing a ceiling. I think that this isn't intended to be a ceiling, this is intended to be a floor. These are options, these are things that I think we have seen. This isn't an exhaustive or exclusive list. And so I just want to make that clear to you in the event that we issue this guidance, that is what I would like to reflect here. Within that second bullet point, the changes to the municipal preference, the resident preference, is based on some federal case law that's come down about preferences in the past few years. And so this is really trying to make sure that we are not suggesting to parties to these agreements that they engage in something that's actually
In any other way.
Again, so the list of anticipated costs, this again is a suggested list. There are viable options. There are other things that could be included on this list. One additional suggestion was municipal inspection costs. I think that again, this isn't exhaustive or exclusive. And in fact, none of these, may ultimately be something that a municipality decides or decides to kind of put forth as a cost that would be under the community impact fee. But that again is just to let people know that this isn't an exhaustive list. The clarification down here is really to take into consideration that, as we say earlier in the guidance, we read conditions broadly. And the statute provides for, and in fact requires, that the conditions be spelled out in a host community agreement. Any amount that is not a community impact fee, if it's an additional condition under the host community agreement, needs to follow through with the legal requirements that we have set forth in here about what fees are, what constitutes a fee. There needs to be a reasonable relation, and it needs to be something that is proportional. There's a proportionality between a cost or impact claimed by the community and the fee required of the marijuana establishment. And that's something that is espoused in case law. There's Supreme Court law, Kuhn's decision talks about that. In the nature of exactions, there needs to be a proportionality. And I think it's really important that we are marbling this throughout the guidance, because it's the law, but also because it's what makes sense of the policy. And it's what I think our hope and what we are aspiring to do is to allow people to engage in a way that's reasonable, reaches a reasonable agreement, takes into consideration factors, and really has an honest conversation about what the costs are going to be associated here, and dials down some of the rhetoric that has been out there. At the end of the day, everyone who is engaging in these conversations are adults. They are people that engage in business relationships and engage in contracting relationships and are equipped to be able to reach a successful agreement, perhaps with some assistance as provided here. But I really hope that in providing this and sort of finding and reiterating that reasonableness and proportionality are something that we've tried to carry this through, I think, in our regulations. I think we've tried to carry through in the guidances that we have put out to date. And in fact, it's something that, if we go back to question 4, is reflected in the local control language that was included in question 4. And so there's a consistency here that I am hopeful we can really try to get people to, come to the table and act in a way that's reasonable. And then the final edit here is the community impact fee is limited to a term of 5 years. We received comments from both folks who I consider kind of on the industry side and on the municipal side, asking for clarification here. And so the clarification that I would suggest is a final couple of sentences at the end. At or before the conclusion of the term of the preceding community impact fee, the parties may choose to negotiate a new optional community impact fee, which shall similarly be limited to a term of 5 years or less. Regardless of whether the parties choose to negotiate a new community impact fee, the Commission interprets the strict time limitation of Chapter 94G, Section 3B as extinguishing the preceding community impact fee upon the expiration of 5 years or less, whichever was originally agreed to by the parties. This is intended to say you can negotiate a new optional fee at the end of 5 years, or the end of, if you decide to do a community impact fee that's limited to 1 year because you really want to keep an eye on those costs and come back in and talk about those costs. You can negotiate a new community impact fee. That new community impact fee starts when that negotiation is concluded. If it happens to be that it's concluded on day 366 of the old fee, then it starts on that day. But the pre-existing community impact fee is over at the end of that term. I think that is what the statute suggests to us, that's what they tell us in the statute as a limitation. And I think that's a fair interpretation that is given to the statute. So in an effort to clarify that these aren't kind of rolling fees, I would like to include something like this in the guidance.
Thank you. Can we start with just comments on the suggested edits and Commissioner Dora, and then we can broaden into other concerns or questions?
Sure, I have a
Go ahead, Commissioner Dora.
very dull and technical question.
I will resist comment.
Everyone who would like to zone out for a second. One of the things that I think has led to some misunderstanding and perhaps resentment amongst the contracting parties is lack of familiarity with municipal processes in terms of things like the costs associated with requiring a special permit and the costs that are often imposed on an applicant seeking, for example, a request for determination of applicability or notice of intent with regard to wetlands or other environmental areas. And finding out that there is this ability of municipalities to ask the applicant to fund studies, fund even hiring an expert by the municipality, et cetera. And what I wasn't clear on when I was just scanning this, and obviously it was a bit quick, so I may have just missed it, is are we clarifying that issue as something that is perhaps separate and apart from a community impact fee? Because I personally had never thought of that kind of thing as being part of a community impact fee, because the typical way I think this process goes is you negotiate the post-community agreement and then local permitting is sought afterwards. So just from a practical standpoint, it may be difficult to discern what these costs associated with permitting are up front. It may not be impossible, it's just difficult, and we're talking about different arms of the municipal government. So, you know, typically the administration would negotiate a host community agreement, that you have the Conservation Commission, one board that deals with environmental issues, you have the zoning board or the planning board that may be dealing with other permits that are required for the particular location. And I wonder if we could provide some clarity, if we haven't already.
So in that paragraph under number 2, that you see must come with the community impact fee. So the second paragraph that starts, any fee that is more than 3%. So there I added in the second sentence, moreover, any fee whether characterized as a fee, donation, or other exaction, including any assessment above 3% of gross sales, must also comply with applicable law. So in that instance, under, I'm going to mistake the general laws, but it's chapter 40, and I believe chapter 44, that talks about municipal permitting processes and exactly what Commissioner Doyle just referenced, that there is this ability to request that. I do not view the requirements of section 3D of 94G as extinguishing all other applicable laws. That can't be what happens. It just isn't functionally how the passage of statutes works. It's not how law works, right? So here, I believe that, again, in an effort to provide guidance so that people can move forward, this delineates our interpretation, or what I would surmise as our interpretation, or suggest as our interpretation of section 3D, but it's not so exhaustive as to go into every possible iteration of contracting law. So I do think that, you know, there are applicable laws that are still going to come into play when there is a contract that's being worked out. That if it is a fee that is going to be charged, it clearly needs to comply with that law. I believe that across the board, it should be proportional and it should be reasonable, and I think that that is not an unreasonable interpretation of how municipalities and marijuana establishments should be interacting. You know, that's my hope for how people would be interacting. So that was the attempt to sort of say, there is other applicable law here. You need to be complying with that law, but acting in a way that's reasonable and proportional.
Thank you, that was helpful.
Other comments on the suggested edits? Commissioner Dunn?
I support all the edits. I think they're great. I would add to the discussion that we just had, that it does make sense, I think, to me, that a special permitting fee would not be included in the community impact fee, assuming that the community impact fee is truly a list of reasonably related costs and not just 3% without the list.
Right.
So maybe the best way we could address that is, I would suggest that instead of saying must also comply with applicable law and deleting the legal requirements discussed above, we just add applicable law including the legal requirements discussed above.
I don't really have a problem with that edit. I guess the reason I struck out the legal requirements discussed above is because I actually felt like adding this final sentence was reiterating, it was kind of before we were sort of referring people back up, and this is where I wanted to make it very clear that what we're talking about isn't just Emerson, and it's not just the 3%. This really is applicable. The idea of proportionality and reasonable is going to be, you know, applicable to all of the components. Again, that's my view of how that negotiation should happen, that there should be a reasonable relation and it should be proportional. So I'm fine with putting that back in. It feels like a little little, I don't know that it's necessary, but if you think it's clarifying, then I'm happy to put that back in.
I mean, I think it applies either way, but I do think that helps. And then one other thing, looking at the new sentence, I think it would be helpful to add one more sentence that is really just copy and pasted from the law, but if you don't have the law in front of you, I think it's important to include this for context, that the host community agreement shall include all stipulations of responsibilities between the host community and the marijuana establishment.
Can I just ask two clarifying questions? One is, in the list of things that are, you know, and again, I appreciate your language about it's not meant to be an inclusive or exclusive list of things that can include in the community experience. One of the things that came up in comments that I read is towns and cities charging for expert advice they're getting in the negotiation of the HCA. So whether they're talking about lawyers or consultants or other experts that help them negotiate the agreement, is that actually a legitimate cost to be covered by the HCA? And I'm just not clear in my own mind whether that is something that is legitimate or not, or whether it's something we should take a position on or not. I'd be interested in your thoughts, Commissioner McBride. Or others.
Do you want me to do that? I know, I can,
Oh, anybody?
Falling back and forth. So that is consistent with what is done with other kinds of permits. And I have, you know, obviously heard municipal attorneys recommending as, you know, as we're doing the municipal outreach engagements, we've had different municipal lawyers often on panels with us, and I've heard, you know, them suggest, particularly with small towns in Western Massachusetts, it's very difficult for them with a constrained legal budget to even be able to engage in any kind of extended negotiation process. So I actually think it's a helpful thing to have that funded, because then they're more likely to be willing to engage rather than to say, oh, we can't afford to even deal with this ban, moratorium, whatever the other alternative is. I would like to, you know, try to keep our approach to this as consistent with what's already out there, and then also do it in a way that encourages municipalities to be flexible and open-minded and actually approach this in a non-boilerplate kind of way.
Yeah, so that makes perfect sense to me. I'd like to just ask for your comments then on this kind of corollary, which is, in every conversation we've ever had, this going back to December, my concern is not with the big guys, it's with the smaller entrepreneurs that are trying to encourage participate in this industry. And I'd make the same argument for them, which is they don't have the resources to engage this way. And so by essentially, force is the wrong word, but in the community agreement, if they cover the cost of the municipality, it seems a little bit disproportionate. Their own expense in negotiating this is not covered. And so I'd be interested in your reaction to that, or anybody else's. But that's your logic makes sense. That's the concern I have with it.
No, I absolutely agree with you. I think one of the chief issues for the economic opportunity applicants is going to be the funding even to get going,
right,
including these issues. And that's, you know, part of my plea to municipalities is please be flexible. You know, please don't approach this as a one-size-fits-all thing. If you are working with a small business, don't immediately demand